Can you hear me now? Is that better? Let's see. Is that any better, anybody? Let me know. Much better. Okay, good. The dial on the microphone was turned all the way down, I guess. Yes, excellent. Is the sound as crystal clear as it should be, like it has been in past streams? Let me know. But welcome, Reaper Extra, Ghostly Ghoul. Thank you for the 6 months of support, Ghostly Ghoul. I really appreciate that. Hogan, 10 Glucci, Lady Lara Croft, Dr. Irrefutable, and holy cow, Danny Phantom, thank you for the Prime sub. I really appreciate that. Welcome to the channel. It's great to have you here. Thank you for your support. Yeah. And Tommy Ploticus, 6 months. Thank you for those 6 months, Tommy Ploticus. You know how much I appreciate that. I could not do this without your financial support, so thank you very, very much for that. Yeah, excellent. And Freya Eloise, good to see you too. I'm glad you're here. The Trek Nerd Wet Shaken, welcome. Howdy, everybody. Again, for anybody who's new here, let me introduce myself real quick. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. You probably know already that a paleontologist is a scientist who studies fossils. I work on dinosaur fossils in particular. So I dig up dinosaurs in places such as this, out in western Wyoming. I study dinosaurs, I publish on them in the scientific literature, and nowadays I actually make my living here on Twitch, streaming paleontology, usually 5 days a week. But I'm out here in the late Cretaceous Almond Formation, have been for a little over a week now, and I can't stream every day because this is a real working dinosaur dig. You know, we're digging up new specimens. It's a lot of hard work. We've been dealing with inclement weather at times, and it's unpredictable out here in the field. So I've been doing the best I can, but luckily today, it is a beautiful day. It is not raining, as you can see. Nice temperature. It's in the 70s today. I figured it's a perfect day to stream. We're digging up a duckbill dinosaur just over this ridge, and I'll show you that in a couple minutes here. Tarzan says, how goes the ceratopsian dig? We finished that up yesterday. Yeah. That is done. We don't have an excavation permit for that site, just a prospecting permit, like surface collection. So we can dig a 1 meter by 1 meter hole, and we did. And we got out the very best bone that we possibly could, the parietal. And yeah, that's all jacketed and ready to be taken back to the laboratory. So that's really good news to have that thing out of the ground. It's safe from poachers now, and yeah, I think it's actually sitting in a secure facility at the moment. So yeah. Of course, we're digging out here on federal land, public land, Bureau of Land Management's land that belongs to all of us as, you know, the American people. So we've got permits and everything to do this, got to make sure that we do everything correctly, and that means we can't dig up the rest of that dinosaur until we get an excavation permit. And that might not be until next year. But the good news is we've got the best bone we could possibly get, and it is safe and sound. So, excellent. Those of you who were here a few days ago, I believe that was on Friday, you got to see us jacketing that, which was really, really cool. And yeah. We make a protective cocoon around the bones in order to get them safely back to the laboratory, keep them from falling apart. These things have been here lying in the ground for 73 million years. So you expose them to the surface and shoot, they're no longer safe, you know? So we make them as safe as we can by building a protective cocoon around it. We call it a field jacket. It's made out of plaster of Paris with burlap in it. So yeah. And it is a beautiful day out here in Visible Dimensions. Thank you for your support. 23 months. You know I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Saggy Iguana, how are you doing? Welcome. And how long have I been in the field? Shoot, it's been a little over a week. Yeah, I think we've done 3 or 4 streams so far. So, yeah. And I'm going to try and stream more often from now on, if I can. No promises. You know, field work is unpredictable. But, yeah. This enterprise out here, all of this fieldwork is actually funded by this community. Raised about $7,000 for us to be able to dig up these dinosaurs in the late Cretaceous Almond Formation. And again, I know I keep saying how exciting it is, but it's very exciting. Just about any dinosaur that we dig up is going to be new, because these are unexplored strata. These rock layers don't have any dinosaurs named from them. So just about anything we dig up, it's going to be a new genus or a new species, which is, that's kind of thrilling. Yeah. But yeah. And Dr. Irrefutable says it's amazing that there's anything left at all from such a long time ago. I mean, yeah. But if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, with all of that time, even improbable events become inevitable after a while, like the preservation of a dinosaur skeleton. So out of the billions of dinosaurs that ever lived, hardly any of them got a chance to become a fossil. But since it's such a long span of time and there were so many of them, eventually even improbable things happen. And so we get preserved dinosaurs, fossilized in these strata. Dinosaur Dave, thank you so much for all those gift subs. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Splendid. Yeah, and it has been very rainy here in Wyoming this summer. Yesterday we got rained out of a quarry, actually. We were digging at a microsite just down the road, and we had to leave in a hurry because it started raining and there was thunder and lightning. So yeah, and Murph, thank you for those gift subs. Exquisite. Thank you. There are now 5 people who will no longer have to watch any ads while I'm out here in the field, thanks to you, Murph, so thank you. Thank you again, Dinosaur Dave. Excellent. And yeah, a new duckbill, we think, Izzy. Should we go see? Let's go take a look. Yeah. Here's our Starlink setup, by the way. This is the reason I can stream right now. Satellite internet. So there's the dish, and there's the router. Yeah, good stuff. I've been pretty pleased with how this has worked so far. We've had no major hiccups or anything, so cross your fingers it continues to work. This is a refurbished unit that they gave me, so certainly wasn't new. Had some dings and scratches and stuff, but it's working pretty solidly so far. I'm happy about that. Yeah. So yeah. And Mr. Knight, good to see you too. LTRM crew, thank you. Good to have you here. Yeah, excellent. Yeah. There's that. And then here is our quarry over here. And we've got volunteers Fisher and Terrence working on this duckbill. Yeah. And it's been kind of slow going, but bits of bone are coming up. So this is one. Terrence, when was this site discovered? Was it last summer or the summer before?
I believe it was the summer before, and we had to wait until last summer just to get the permit to take out the first femur.
Nice, yeah. So this hole right here is largely new. There was a big old femur, big old thigh bone that Ethan and co dug up. I think it was in last fall. Yep. Yeah. It's a big animal. And so Fisher and Terrence are very carefully digging through here right now. And there's bits of bone coming out all over the place. Actually, all over the side of this hill. And in a little while, I'll ask Fisher to actually take us on a little tour. We can look at some of the more charismatic bones that are popping out on the hillside. But, yeah, this is really the exciting part right here. And we got a little piece of tendon on here now. Oh, that's been there, actually, yeah.
It's located up by
yeah. But everybody, this is a dinosaur thigh bone right here from a pretty big animal. This is the largest bone in the body, the femur, in the same way that your femur is the largest bone in your body. The femur of a duckbill dinosaur, it's the same way. So, big animal. A lot of it is still covered by this concreted stuff right here. But you can see the end of the femur right there. And I've been working on this. Took down this part over here this morning. And so we're just going to be kind of digging in that direction. So far it seems like the bones might be in kind of a line going this way. And yeah. Cool stuff. So this could represent like a river channel or something like that. Given that so far it seems like the bones are kind of going in that direction. We've got this femur right here. The femur from earlier was from over here. And so those are the biggest, densest, heaviest bones. I don't know if they're the densest proportionally, but they're the biggest and heaviest bones. And so all the lighter stuff may have been scattered by the current going in that direction. So I'll show that to you in a little bit. But yeah. Nice, and I'm glad you're doing well, Dinosaur Dave. Very cool. Yeah. And MS Coggin says, yeah, my femur is huge, lol. I mean, compared to the rest of the bones in your body, definitely. Yeah. So yeah. And how are you doing, Claire Burr? Great to see you. Magsmus, what's shaking? 1970 Brenda, how are you doing? Thank you for introducing yourself. It's good to have you here. Yeah. So yeah, we are reasonably certain that this is going to turn out to be a new species or new genus of duckbill dinosaur. Again, because this is a particular time and place that we don't have any dinosaurs named from. So any dinosaur that we find is most likely going to be new. Dinosaurs, they're always evolving, like all critters. And so any one given species isn't going to last particularly long. It's either going to go extinct, or it's going to evolve into something else. And so, for that reason, since dinosaur species don't stick around for very long, this one's going to be new, most likely. So yeah. And thank you, Golganek, for those bits. I appreciate that. Call it a dinosaur. I'm not going to be naming this thing. Yeah. I don't really work on duckbill dinosaurs, and I don't know. Somebody who's much more experienced in this group is probably going to end up studying it and naming it. Or Ethan might end up doing it for maybe his doctoral thesis or something. This whole project is his brainchild, working out here in the Almond Formation. And yeah. Exciting stuff. Yeah. And PaleoStream, how are you doing? Yeah. Oh yes, and definitely the risk of non-professional poachers is high. Definitely, yeah. The thing is, if other paleontologists were to work in this area, they would have to get permits from the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, that oversees and protects the federal lands out here. Obviously, illegal poachers don't bother with that kind of thing. And so that's why I've got to be a little bit cagey about where we are. Yeah, because we don't want people coming in, like either souvenir hunters or commercial poachers or whomever, coming through here and stealing the bones. So yeah, and that's why we've got to work pretty fast too, and try and keep a low profile. Like you know how it works. So yeah. Anywho, and does the fossil have a nickname? This is called the T-bone site, Dinosaur Dave. The T-bone site. And Paleo Mom, yes, Mom, I do have sunscreen on, of course. SPF 30. Yeah. And it looks like we might get some clouds coming to deliver some shade to us soon. Be a welcome relief. But it's not really that hot out. But at high elevation like this, we're probably over, 6,000 feet or something. Terrence would have a good idea of that. Close to 6,000, Terrence says. Yeah. Yeah, the higher you get in elevation, the higher the risk of sunburn when it's sunny out, because there's less atmosphere there to help protect you. You're getting more direct ultraviolet radiation from the sun. So yeah. And Jimmy Jazz says, are you working on this site through a university or public department of some kind? Nope. We are an independent group funded by this Twitch community, actually. So that's almost all of our funding this season has come through the viewership here, which is pretty extraordinary, and hats off to everybody who's contributed. That's pretty extraordinary. But yeah. Well, we are working with a museum. I should emphasize that, I suppose. Any fossils that we dig up here are going to be reposited at the museum in Cincinnati. So, yeah, this is not for commercial gain or anything like that. Obviously not. These fossils are scientifically important. These are going to be new dinosaurs. They belong in a museum, and they are going to a museum. They'll be there right around the end of the month. They'll be delivered to the museum in Cincinnati, Ohio. And there they will be publicly reposited. So those fossils will be there for as long as there is a museum system. Not to be bought or sold or traded or anything like that. They are held in the public trust in that museum. So long after I am dead and gone, those fossils will be there for other scientists to study and for the public to enjoy. That's what this is all about. So, Yeah, yeah. Anyway, yeah. And, oh, and it is for the public and scientific good. Absolutely, Jimmy Chaz. Yeah, yeah. It's what it's all about. Yeah. Being a paleontologist does not pay well. We're in it for, because we're passionate about this, because we want to unlock these mysteries of the ancient world. That's why we do this. That's why we put up with, inclement weather and, not showering for months on end and, pooping in a bucket and stuff like that. Yeah, this isn't necessarily a job that's for the faint of heart or for people who really enjoy creature comforts. But if you want to be on the cutting edge of science, this is one way of doing that. So, yeah. And then you get to be in beautiful landscapes like this. Is that a meadowlark that I hear? Might be. Not that classic meadowlark song, but something. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Good stuff. So yeah, how many people do we have watching right now? 159. Not too shabby for 17 minutes in. Holy cow. But yeah, check out this beautiful landscape. So again, at risk of repeating myself a little too much, we're here in the Almond Formation, which is late Cretaceous in age. So this is about maybe 7 million years before the end of 73, or about 13 million years before, 13 million? I can't do math suddenly. Anyway, we're sort of just before the end of the age of dinosaurs. End of the Campanian, right when it comes up to the Maastrichtian. So this is like 7 million years before dinosaurs like T-Rex and Triceratops evolve. So yeah. It's an exciting time. This is when I should have brought my my laminated sheet to show you. But imagine looking out to the east here, and maybe just a few miles away would be this vast inland sea stretching out there. This area would have been a lot more flat at the time. A vast tropical sea, almost kind of like the modern Mediterranean or like the Caribbean. And this would be an immense floodplain out here. You'd have these big rivers, bringing sediment down from the growing Rocky Mountains. You would have herds of dinosaurs walking around, duckbills and horned dinosaurs. They'd be hunted by tyrannosaurs and maybe some dromaeosaurs, raptor dinosaurs too. And you'd have a few little birds flitting around and some pterosaurs. And the rivers and lakes and oxbows and creeks through here, you would have things like bowfin fish and gar and sturgeon. You would have freshwater sharks and skates, kind of like stingrays. And up in the brush on the land, you would have things like lizards and snakes, and a few fuzzy little mammals scurrying around too. Our ancestors at this time. This is the landscape that we're helping to, the landscape and the environment that we're helping to uncover and resurrect here. So yeah. But yeah. Good stuff. And we've been out here, I think, we got here last Tuesday, so it's been, 8 days so far? Counting last Tuesday also? So yeah. And I'll be here until, there's that bird. There's a rock wren up there. Hey, rock wren. Listen to it making those laser sounds. Here, we'll see if we can get closer, and I'll get some water, too. Oh, there he goes. Still gonna get some water. But yeah, I'll be here until, the 30th? And I take off? So yeah. Got about another 9 or 10 days. So hydration, of course, is really important in the field. I know it's important, Twitch streaming in general, but in an environment like this, you really got to make sure you drink enough water. Because heat exhaustion and heat stroke and other, dehydration, those are real threats out here. Where did I put my bag? There it is. Yeah. Common bird name? Rock wren. That's what that was. I don't know the Latin binomial. Somebody can look it up. Find anything else over here, guys?
Yeah, a couple gar scales, but that's it.
That's cool. We'll take a look at those. Yeah.
In this bag, if you want to.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome. Yeah. Take a look at some little pieces in here. Bits of interesting stuff from the quarry so far. There we go. Well, we'll put it here on this shovel. Or how about on this rock? Give a nice little bit of contrast here. There we go. Before we look at the gar scale, this is a piece of dinosaur bone right here. So we call this ossified tendon. So this is, it actually might be sort of something of a misnomer because I don't think it's actually tendon, I think it's ligament. But over the course of the animal's life, the ligament turns to bone, it ossifies. So dinosaurs like these duckbills, they've got these big, long, broad tails behind them. And they're not wiggly-waggly tails like you might see in a lizard. They're much stiffer. They're used to balance the animal and also as an anchor point for some of the big muscles that they use for locomotion. Like there's a big muscle that comes off the back of the femur, the thigh bone, called the caudofemoralis. And so that runs from the midpoint of the femur up to like maybe halfway down the length of the tail. That tail needs to be pretty stiff for balance for the animal and to act as an anchor point for those muscles. And so ossified tendon like this helps to stiffen that tail. So we'll find this all over the quarry. And this extends not just through the tail, but also through the back of the animal as well. Helps kind of stiffen the backbone. And because these dinosaurs, they've got really long hind legs, but they've got shorter and more spindly forelimbs. So their arms are shorter and less massive than their hind limbs. These guys are probably rearing up on their hind legs for feeding or maybe for running. So having a really stiff backbone would help with that, kind of like a seesaw. Oh, and who is that? There's a shrike up there on our rock, right by the Starlink. Oop. Very cool. Oh, there he is again. Hey, shrike. Those are cool. Those are birds that are famous for catching things like grasshoppers and mice and lizards and stuff and impaling them on barbed wire fences. And when they can't find a barbed wire fence, they'll just use like a stick or something like that. But they'll kill small critters and just stick them onto a sharp object and save them for later. It's pretty grisly, but really interesting stuff. Shrikes are neat birds. Alright, we got another chunk of bone right here. Yep, there's some more ossified tendon right there, but this has got, it's encrusted with some concretionary stuff. It's pretty thin for tendon, but it gets like that sometimes. Yeah. And where's that gar scale? There we go. Nice. This is a beautiful little bit of gar scale. See how shiny it is? These are ganoid scales from these fishes. We still have these in places like Louisiana and Texas and the American South. They live in kind of slow-flowing rivers and swamps and lakes and stuff like that. Like alligator gar, if you've ever heard of them. It's the same group, Lepisosteids. And they go back to the Cretaceous period, and they are everywhere in these environments. So it's kind of a clue that this environment would be something not too different from like, a Louisiana bayou or something like that. You've got a lot of water. It's fairly slow-flowing for the most part. And lots of different critters. It's not quite tropical or subtropical, but probably like a warm, temperate kind of environment. And gar and salamanders and frogs and lizards and snakes and all kinds of cool critters like that doing their thing. So yeah. And gar are brutal to get off the hook, I'm sure, yeah. And they've basically got like armor scales all over their body. So, yeah, fishermen who catch gar, you can't really cut them with like a normal knife. I think you've got to use like one of those wire saw things. You almost have to like garrote them. Ugh, poor gar. Anyway, those are critters that have been around for a very long time. And they are still here today, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. Yeah, we got some more bits of bone in there. But there are more. Yep, see that internal bone texture right there? Yeah, that's what dinosaur bone looks like when it's broken. Or at least, yeah. Yeah, but it's all covered by that concretion-y stuff right now. Very cool. Yeah. Oh, and is Lordy here? Hello, Lordy. How you doing? Welcome, welcome. Yeah. Very nice. Put this back in our ammo can. And again, for anybody who's just waltzed in, this is the most charismatic thing going on in the quarry right now, except of course for Fisher and Terrence. But this is our hadrosaur femur right here. This is a big, robust bone. This would be a huge animal. Like I've seen Tyrannosaurus femurs that are smaller than this. It seems like I've found the end of it over here. So it's not going further back into the hill. So it's not crazy, crazy long, but it's still pretty big. There's another big femur from this site. We're trying to figure out if they're actually from the same individual animal. There's other pieces that Fisher's going to show us in a little bit from around the other side of the hill. And yeah, we're just basically trying to figure out, is this all from the same individual animal? Or could this be potentially a bone bed? A bone bed is when you've got a bunch of different animals that all died or got washed in at the same site. And you just dig them all up in kind of a jumbled mess. This is disarticulated, so these bones are not together. The animal was, falling apart. Maybe it was picked apart by scavengers, or maybe the bones were lying there on the surface for a long time before they got washed in with the, seasonal rains or something. It's really hard to tell at this point. We're just kind of figuring this site out. But yeah. Let me see if we got any questions. And Oliver says, did we finish getting the ceratopsian extracted? Yes. Yeah, or at least as much as we're permitted to do right now under our federal permit. Yeah, we can't dig a very big hole there yet. So there's going to be more of that animal in there, but we might have to wait till next year to get it out. Unless the BLM is very nice to us and gives us special permission to dig it up this season, we might end up coming back next year and digging a great big hole to get as much of that animal out as we can. Yeah. And Jimmy Jazz says, what's your opinion on the growing theory of dinosaurs being more avian than reptilian species? Well, I'm going to go further than that. Birds are dinosaurs. So we know this pretty much for a fact at this point. In fact, we've known this for about close to 20 years now, really. And don't just ask me, ask any paleontologist, ask any evolutionary biologist, ask any ornithologist, bird scientist. They'll all tell you the same thing. Birds evolved from dinosaurs. Birds are a kind of dinosaur. But dinosaurs are also reptiles, so that means that birds, since birds are a kind of dinosaur and dinosaurs are a kind of reptile, birds are a kind of reptile. I don't really like to use the word reptile very much because it's not all that useful from an explanatory standpoint. Yeah, it's kind of funny, like the classification system that most people learn in school, like most of you watching at home, the classification system that you learned with like, oh, reptiles have scales and they live on the land, and then fish have scales and they live in the water, and mammals don't lay eggs, but they have fur and milk. And, those things are kind of broadly speaking true, but that's not really, it doesn't get to the core of how these things are actually related and how they evolved. So birds are a kind of reptile, That's why birds have that scaly skin on their legs and feet. That's why they've got, similar eyes to reptiles. They've got tetrachromatic vision and everything. They can see in partway into the ultraviolet spectrum. That's because birds evolved from dinosaurs and dinosaurs evolved from earlier reptiles. So yeah, I prefer the term sauropsid to reptile because that includes birds. When most people say reptile, they're not talking about birds, even though, strictly speaking, they are a kind of reptile, you know? So yeah. But anyway, we know a lot of dinosaurs had feathers. Feathers might actually be like a basal trait for dinosaurs. So any dinosaurs that didn't have feathers, it might be because they kind of, you know, throughout the course of evolution, those groups got rid of their feathers. We're still figuring a lot of this stuff out, but yeah, a lot of dinosaurs are extraordinarily bird-like because they gave rise to birds. Birds came from dinosaurs. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Let's see here. Let's see. And Hugan, yes, therizinosaurs are definitely underappreciated, I think. Yeah. But yeah, and Rizudego says mammals are warm-blooded. Child me holding a bird for the first time. Warm, yeah. Well, dinosaurs were also warm-blooded for the most part. So, you know, people think of reptile and they think that they're all cold-blooded. That wasn't the case with dinosaurs. Most dinosaurs, we think, were endothermic. They created their own body heat by processing food and the way that endothermic creatures like mammals and birds do today. Birds got their warm-bloodedness from their dinosaur ancestors. There is a growing consensus that certain groups of dinosaurs, like some of the ornithischians, the bird-hipped dinosaurs, which are not related to birds, oddly enough, some of them may have been cold-blooded or ectothermic, but that seems to be like a secondary adaptation, where like they evolved to be cold-blooded when their ancestors, the first dinosaurs, were warm-blooded. But this is, I don't know, this is kind of emerging research. Yeah. But yeah. And let's see, more questions. And yeah, some dinosaurs had feathers. Many dinosaurs had feathers. Izzy, yes, indeed. Yeah. And Odious Swan says, my 4-year-old is so enthralled. A bird is a dinosaur? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think I have a command for that, don't I? Exclamation mark birds or something? But yeah, birds are living dinosaurs. So dinosaurs never actually went completely extinct. It's funny because in popular culture, many people associate the word dinosaur with extinction. But no, dinosaurs are still around, and there are many of them out here chirping right now. We just saw one a few minutes ago, that shrike. Oh yeah. If you were to see a lot of living dinosaurs, like if you were to climb into a time machine and go back to the Cretaceous and see, for instance, a velociraptor, at first glance you might think it's a bird, because it's an animal that's all covered with feathers all over its body. And it would move a lot like a bird. It's got that kind of S-curved neck. Velociraptor and other relatives, the dromaeosaurs, basically had like wings, even though they couldn't fly. Yeah, wings may not have actually evolved for flight initially in birds and their dinosaur ancestors. They may have been used for display, for courtship, for shielding eggs from the sun. Yeah, or it could be the other way around. Maybe they did evolve originally for flight, and maybe Velociraptor evolved from a bird ancestor. That's, again, something that we're still trying to figure out. That particular place in the dinosaur family tree is still pretty hazy. Like, where do dinosaurs like Velociraptor actually come from? There's a chance that they evolved from the first birds, which would make Velociraptor itself a bird. It's tough to figure this stuff out because these animals are incredibly bird-like, and when we go back and try and like trace their ancestry, a lot of those fossils are still missing. Like, we haven't found them yet. A lot of this stuff from like the middle or even the late Jurassic for very bird-like theropods, those fossils are really rare. And yeah, those deposits the fossils can be found in are really rare too. Like, it's hard to find good exposures of like middle Jurassic stuff that is, you know, has dinosaur fossils in it. So yeah. But let me scroll down. I think we are trying to catch up. But yes, Gary Angelis, all birds are dinosaurs, but not all dinosaurs are birds. True. Stegosaurus and its relatives are not birds. But they're closer to birds than they are to crocodiles or something. Yeah. But yeah. Let's see. I get this question a lot, Peng 2021. Do you ever bring out ground-penetrating radar to try and spot potential excavating spots? No. That's not something that works, unfortunately. I know everybody's seen that that scene in Jurassic Park with the ground penetrating radar where they shoot the shotgun shell into the ground and the bone bounces the image back. It doesn't work in real life. That line in there, like, oh yeah, a few more years development, we won't even have to dig anymore. Bull honky. Yeah, that was 30 years ago, and we're still doing it the old-fashioned way because that's the only way that really works. So yeah. Even if it did work, our crew would not have the budget for that kind of equipment. But it doesn't work to start with. Yeah. But yeah. And let's see here. And Rose Sim says the dinosaurs that have survived to our time are the only birds and aquatic life? No aquatic life, Rose. Only birds. Birds are the only group of surviving dinosaurs. Yeah. Sometimes you'll hear people who don't know what they're talking about say, like, oh yeah, turtles are living dinosaurs, and so are crocodiles and lizards. Nonsense. They're not. They're, like, distantly related to dinosaurs. Crocodiles are a little bit closer, I guess. But they're not dinosaurs. They're outside of the dinosaur family tree. Yeah. So yeah. Oh, and Dinosaur Dave, this is after Spinosaurids went extinct. Yeah, we're in, like, late Campanian, kind of almost nosing up into the Maastrichtian here, and Spinosaurids were already gone. So if we were to find a Spinosaurid here, not only would it be the only one ever found in North America, it would also be the latest surviving Spinosaurid and would push forward their dates tens of millions of years. So yeah, we're not expecting to find a Spinosaurid. We're much more likely to find, say, a Tyrannosaur or a Leptoceratopsian or a Nithomimosaur or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see, who else do we have got here? And Nolo says, what would be the main driving force behind birds losing their teeth and gaining beak when both work so well? It might be it's just an advantage for flight. I mean, a beak is more lightweight than a mouth full of teeth. It might also be there were a bunch of toothed birds during the Cretaceous, and they all seem to go extinct when the asteroid hits. And it might be because when that, horrible catastrophe happens, the only way to survive would be to eat seeds and crud. And the birds that, had beaks rather than teeth, or some birds had beaks and teeth, but the ones that didn't have teeth might have been best suited to eating seeds and surviving. It's probably something like 90% of bird species went extinct when the asteroid hit. It's only a few species that survived. And those ones that survived are the ones that didn't have any teeth. So part of it's just luck, too. The fact that we don't have toothed birds today. Because there were a bunch during the age of dinosaurs. Sheepdog says, I'm surprised you have cell reception in Wyoming. I don't. No, we're using the Starlink satellite right now. Do people not read the title anymore? But yeah. And Sedulous, that's a hadrosaur, a duckbill dinosaur. Yeah. How much more have you gotten from the ceratopsian? Just a few little scraps of bone, and then the parietal. That big bone from the center of the frill. And that's all we can get for this summer, probably. Unless they rush us an excavation permit, we can't dig a bigger hole than that. So that's going to have to be it for now. We'll have to come back next year and try and get an excavation permit, and then dig up whatever else might be in there. But once we get an excavation permit, we can dig a big hole and see what else is in there. Kind of like we're doing here. Yeah. How long have you been relying on Starlink? A couple weeks now? Yeah. I tried relying on it last year, and it didn't work. Same with the year before. So, yeah. Really glad it's working now, because it was a real dud last year. But yeah. Anyway, good stuff. How are you doing, Lenina? Welcome. And how's the weather? Weather's pretty good today. It's in the 70s. Nice and clear. The winds aren't too strong. No thunderstorms here in the immediate vicinity, so counting my lucky stars. It's things are good. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. But yeah. Strange Hamburger says this year Starlink has definitely improved. Well, that, and they sent me one that wasn't defective. because the dish that I had before just was not going to work. Yeah. Anyway, I hear another rock wren over there. Oop, there he goes. Very cool. Yeah. And how close in time to each other are the two fossils you're excavating? Oh, the ceratopsian and this one? There's probably a good amount of time between them. It could be 1 million years, because they're pretty... there's a lot of vertical space, we think, between them. But we won't really know that until we actually get some good dates, or we talk to a proper stratigrapher who's able to go through this area and figure out what's going on here stratigraphically. But yeah, it could be as much as 1 million years between this dinosaur that we're digging up right now and the horned dinosaur from that you saw on the weekend. So yeah. Anyway, and there are bones to see. Let me go show you again. Degaprox, yeah. And then maybe I'll ask Fisher to show us some of the other bones on the other side. We've got 280 people watching right now. That is pretty excellent. Welcome, everybody. For anybody who just waltzed in, let me introduce myself real quick. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. I stream paleontology here on Twitch, so if that sounds interesting to you, please don't hesitate to follow or subscribe if you want to, support this kind of work. I do this full time, and I'm only able to do that because of the generosity of this community. So it's totally community funded, and yeah. But I'm out here in western Wyoming, out in the late Cretaceous Almond Formation. We're digging up dinosaurs here. So let me show you a duckbill dinosaur that we're digging up that's probably going to be a new genus or a new species. So again, here's Terrence and Fisher up here, hard at work while I'm yakking away. And they're very carefully excavating. Yeah, looking for little bits of stuff. Can anybody spot the big bone in the quarry? Should be pretty obvious. It's right here. Big old thigh bone, femur from a duckbill dinosaur. Big animal. This would be a pretty sizable creature. So this is the actual bone right here. I'm not sure if this is the distal end of the femur, or it could be the proximal end, and the femur head right here could be broken off. We're still trying to figure that out. But I was digging over here earlier, clearing away all that overburden so we can dig down, and it seems like we found the end of the thigh bone right there. So it's big. I don't know if it's the same size as the other thigh bone that's already been taken out of the site last fall. It could be that we've got a whole bunch of different individual duckbill dinosaurs washed in here. We're still trying to figure that out. But yeah. And again, here's a little bit of hadrosaur bone right there. Some ossified tendon, like we were talking about earlier. This is like, I don't think it's actually tendon. I think it's ligament, I've been told. But that turned to bone over the course of the animal's lifetime through its ontogeny. And that would help stiffen its backbone and help it move more efficiently. So yeah. Sys admin, great to have you here. Welcome. Yeah. But yeah. No, we never find dinosaurs. Well, I take that back. There are a few dinosaurs that have been found almost kind of vertical, like upright. We think they may have gotten mired, like stuck in the mud, so that all of their limbs are just plunging straight down. But it's pretty rare. Usually you find dinosaurs plopped over on their sides, or all, broken apart, like this guy here. Yeah. Nice work, guys.
Found this isolated element earlier.
Oh, very nice. Tell us about it, Terrence.
About 4 inches long here, and it did crack in the middle, so we glued it back in place. And
nice.
We'll leave it for documentation.
Very cool.
Just working around it carefully, hoping for more.
Yeah. So yeah, I see Terrence very carefully digging with that knife there. Not... This isn't a rocket surgery. We've got fairly unspecialized tools. We dig with what we've got, and I don't know. They don't really make specialized tools for dinosaur digs, so you use knives, you use soft brushes, whisk brooms, hammers and chisels, and I'll show you some of my tools of choice over here, and then we'll check out what Fisher's doing. Yeah, so these are my favorite tools to use. An awl like this, and I've got the kind with the metal, what is that called? Metal pawling? But that means you can hit it with a hammer, and it won't bust up the wooden part too much. But yeah, it's good for breaking apart mudstones and sandstones too. I really need to sharpen this one, it's getting kind of dull. And then the oyster knife, my very favorite hand tool. I learned how to use these with Museum of the Rockies back in Montana, and I swear by them. Not everybody likes using an oyster knife. Actually, most crews don't use them, probably because they haven't heard of them. But yeah, this is one of my favorite tools for digging up dinosaurs. Yeah, and then I've got some other tools in the tool bag here. Yeah, various stuff. Toothbrushes, screwdrivers, documentation tools, chisels, gloves, dust wind goggles, all the good stuff. Yeah. So yeah. Peter Steve says, did you find any non-dinosaur bones? They turn up. We've got some gar scales, which are little, armor scales from these cool fishes.
Turtle as well.
Oh yeah, and some turtle too. Yeah. Turtles are really cool because oftentimes after they die, they just kind of explode. Not in a violent way, but the pieces just kind of scatter everywhere. And the pieces of turtle shell can be really diagnostic. So they can tell you just based on a fragment like what kind of turtle it is. And that can be really, really helpful for figuring out where you are in time. So yeah, it's always fun to find bits of turtle shell. And they can be really helpful with stratigraphy. So yeah. Fisher, you got anything over there?
Yeah, so I've got this bone here, which I'm thinking might be part of a vertebra because we've got some of that ossified tendon right above it, which would be associated in life. You can kind of see the cylindrical shape.
There we go, yeah.
Here's the other larger piece of bone.
Nice.
Up here, I don't know if this is contiguous or not, but a little bit of broken bone that we might have hit when we were taking down some of this overburden.
Gotcha.
Just trying to expose that. And then while I was doing that, I found what appears to be a pretty big gar scale right here.
Ooh, nice. Look at that. Beautiful. Can you point again?
Here.
Yeah.
It's got kind of a sheen to it. So
Very
it stands
nice.
out. It's the biggest one we've found so far, I think.
Uh-huh. Very cool. Yeah. Awesome. Just talking about gar scales, and here we go. Yeah. Fisher, how long have you been digging dinosaurs like this?
So my first field season was in 2021, down in the Cedar Mountain Formation, Dolings Bowl.
Yeah, that's where we were last summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And where we're going to be again? In
About a month.
Yeah, about a month. Looking forward to that. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, and Fisher, tell us maybe about your research interest. Like, what are you most interested? What kinds of critters are you most fascinated by?
So I'm still in my undergraduate, so I don't have really a lot of freedom to study what I want. I work in a paleontology lab at Ohio University doing digital reconstructions of bone that's still in matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly on the archosaurs, so crocodiles and dinosaurs. But my primary interest is in therapsids, which are kind of the group that just comes before mammals that are kind of on their way to being mammalian.
So like Gorgonopsians and stuff like that?
Gorgonopsians,
Yeah.
Dinocephalians, Dicynodonts,
Nice.
Dinocephalians, that kind of stuff.
Very cool.
Cynodonts.
Yeah. Nice. So yeah, I guess this is maybe not as exciting for you as it would be for somebody who, is obsessed with dinosaurs like me, but it's still pretty cool.
Yeah, it's an exceptional, experience to come out here in the field.
You get to dig up like a new kind of dinosaur. I mean, how many people can say that they've done that? It's pretty cool to be able to come out here and be able to say, like, yep, this thing is almost 100% going to be new. Yeah. Cool. And Terrence, would you want to tell us a little bit about your background in storm chasing? Because that's kind of your forte. I'm sure the viewers would be fascinated to hear that.
It's not down to the video aspect, and the video aspect is what brought me here. So
Nice.
Storm chasing for 15 years, and a slow season is all it takes to find a new hobby. So
Yeah.
found myself here 3 years ago, and have been making it back every summer since. It is a true. It's a great way to spend the time, and
Yeah.
the people that you meet out here are pretty incredible. So
I appreciate that. We're super happy to have your help. And
this is a stressful day for me because we have a tornado watch about 150 miles east.
oh, so you're just itching to get out there.
Laramie has a tornado warning right now in the north,
shoot.
so
Yeah.
hopefully this keeps providing.
Well, don't get your hopes up that we'll have tornadoes near camp, because that's
Nope. West of the Continental Divide, I think we're safe.
okay.
But yeah,
Nice.
finding something like this really makes the whole day.
Yeah, awesome.
Well,
let's hope we find some more stuff.
right? Keep
Yeah.
the solstice going.
We're gonna have to. I think Ethan said he's gonna bring some nails over at one point. we'll set up a grid system so we can start mapping everything out.
Okay.
But yeah, cool stuff. Yeah, Clockwork Ninja says, what a cast. We've got some good people on the crew, for certain. Yeah, could almost make a movie out of this. But yeah. In Yes Caravan, he wants to get closer to the tornado. He's a storm chaser. That's what he does. Yeah. Oh, and very cool, Miracle. Yeah. Paleo sharks and or echinoderms. So all the marine stuff for you. Nice. We get freshwater sharks in this formation. I found a ray tooth just yesterday evening. Tooth from some sort of chondrichthyon. Might be like a guitar fish looking critter. What Jim Kirkland would call a saw skate. But yeah. And Doki wants to know, do you need to cast the smaller bones and things? To cast them? Oh, you mean to jacket them? It depends. It depends how fragile they are, and yeah, some of these things we can just kind of take out in a plastic bag. I've used aluminum foil for stuff like that in the past too. Aluminum foil can be really good for keeping things together and keeping them from falling apart. If you like scrunch up a bunch of aluminum foil around it. But yeah, for this femur right here, we will definitely be jacketing this. We'll make a plaster jacket for that, a field jacket. That'll be how we get that out. But smaller stuff we can usually take out without making a jacket around it. Yeah. But yeah, awesome. And Dunzo, hey, thank you. Welcome to Paleontologizing, Dunzo. It's good to have you here. Yeah. Let me get some more water, and because I'm just talking. And I'll show you the Starlink setup again real quick for anybody who just got here and might be interested in that. Alright, that bottle's done. Let me... Yeah, it is water time. Good idea. There we go. Oh, what's that logo there? Here, this bottle's nicer to drink out of, so I'm going to pour it into here and hopefully not spill too much. There we go. Nice. Yeah. There's the Starlink up there. I'll show that to you, everybody, up close in just a minute. Let's check it out. Yeah. And holy cow, we've got new viewers. Let's see, it says here we've got 290 people watching. Holy cow. Excellent. But that view count might even be old. It might be a little bit higher than that at this point. Ugh. So this is the whole reason that we're able to stream right now. There is the solar battery, all charged up from yesterday. Oh, my router fell over. Uh-oh. I kind of hate how shiny and pretty this is. Makes me nervous bringing it out into the field. But there's the router and there's the actual dish right there. So we are miles from no place right now, or something like that. And this is how we're able to get internet, the satellite dish. So yeah. Good stuff. Will I be able to show the bones after they are cleaned? They're going to be in Ohio. So unless I go to Ohio to show you, no. It might take a while for all these fossils to actually be cleaned off in the lab. It could be as much as a year or more. Some of this stuff I think Ethan's going to try and get fast-tracked because it's really exciting. But some of these sites, like the Ceratopsian one, we won't even have that fully excavated until probably the end of next summer. Or maybe the end of next June. Because we might not be able to get an excavation permit for it. But thankfully, the site's covered up. I don't think it's going to get poached or anything. there would have to be like, any poachers would really have to know what they're doing to dig up that site. And we already got the best bone, so yeah. Well, the best bone from a scientific standpoint. I guess if you're a commercial person, the best bone would be a horn. We don't have any horns from it yet. But yeah, that site's going to be safe, I think, for the next year. Let's hope. Cross your fingers. You never know. But, yeah. Pimpcat says, what percentage of fossils would you say never get put on display? 99.99%? 99.999? I don't know. 9.999. It would be maybe 1/10,000th of the fossils that get collected actually get put on display in a given museum, especially a big museum. Because most of the stuff is, not the prettiest. And yeah, a lot of those fossils might be really scientifically important, but they might not be the most charismatic looking, Might not be the best display pieces. Yeah. So like a museum, when most people think of like a dinosaur museum, they think of the displays. Dinosaur skeletons standing up in dramatic poses and, all the signs and lighting and everything else. The most important part of a dinosaur museum is the collections in the back, where the fossils that are scientifically important are stored, so the scientists can visit, study them, and and publish on them. That's where really the real science takes place. The other part is more, outreach, kind of like what I'm doing here on Twitch. Talking to the public, showing people what it's all about. Yeah, that sort of thing. But yeah. But let me scroll and see if we missed any questions. 406 viewers now. Did we get a raid? Holy cow. For whoever may have raided, thank you. And, yeah. Excellent. Oh, no raid. It just jumped up? Really? We're at 406? It's 304 on my counter. Oh, you made a typo, Smorphosaurus. Okay, gotcha. Anyway, yeah. And Pimpcat says, so it's like Raiders of the Lost Ark with the warehouse with all the crates? It kind of is, except rather than crates, there will be carefully organized drawers inside of big metal cabinets, usually. Everything properly labeled, everything accessioned. Although you can still find amazing things in museum collection drawers that are either misidentified or nobody's really bothered to look at them carefully. So some people say, oh yeah, you're more likely to make an amazing dinosaur discovery, in a museum collection as you are in the field. But I don't know. I think a lot of those people have never really done proper field work. Because the real discoveries are made in the field, in my opinion. There would be no museum collections were it not for field work like this. So this sort of thing is extremely important, especially because, if we don't dig these fossils up, they'll just be destroyed by erosion, That's how we find them in the first place, is you've got a little bit of destroyed bone on the surface. Or if you're really lucky, it might not be that destroyed. And then you dig in and you find fresh bone under the surface. And if you get really lucky, you've got an associated skeleton, maybe even an articulated skeleton. Yeah. And Doki, fossils are very well cared for in a proper museum collections. There's custom cradles and padding for them and all that good stuff. Yeah. Flufford wants to know, is there research on dinosaur vocalizations? There is. Yeah, absolutely. Especially on duckbill dinosaurs. Ones with these big crests coming off their heads. Can we get some Parasaurolophus emotes going on in the chat? That's an animal where we can basically start to figure out what it would have sounded like. Because it's got this big hollow crest that would have been used for vocalizations. If you make a replica of that and you blow through it, get some idea for what this animal would have sounded like. It's kind of like a foghorn. Or like maybe a tuba mixed with a foghorn. Really low frequency call that would travel across miles and miles of distance. And these were probably really social animals, and so they could keep tabs on one another, keep in contact when they're moving across a landscape. Going after their food and everything. Yeah. But yeah. Helix Fossil wants to know, would it be possible to find tracks here? Especially with those sandstones in the back. If this was a wetlands, wouldn't it tracks preserve better? Yeah, we haven't really looked much for fossil tracks, but these are the kinds of rocks that you would find dinosaur tracks in. Sandstones like this. I've only ever looked for dinosaur tracks a few times, like in the Frontier Formation of Montana back in 2018. I started to learn a thing or two, but I'm not a track expert or anything. But if we did have some researchers who were interested in tracks, these would be great rocks to look through. These big blocky sandstones like this. These are probably the remains of an ancient river system, because it's very fine-grained but very, very well cemented. So yeah, this is from a fluvial environment. You know, river systems, maybe like an ancient delta flowing out to the sea. Yeah. There we go. And let's see. XF Kirsten. Oh, that's very cool. PVC pipes to make hadrosaur crests. Nice. If they ever found a two-headed dinosaur, isn't there one on the old Russian flag? I think there's a two-headed dinosaur. It's an eagle, but that counts. You know, birds are dinosaurs. They're the only living dinosaurs. Apart from that, no, we've never found a two-headed dinosaur. Occasionally you get two-headed snakes and like two-headed baby cows, calves and stuff, but they don't tend to last very long in the wild. Yeah. So no two-headed dinosaurs, to my knowledge. But yeah, and Lenina, I want to echo what you're saying. We would not be here right now in this capacity if it were not for all these wonderful viewers who helped fund this dig, and everybody who contributed $100 or more. Their names will be in the acknowledgments on the scientific papers describing these new dinosaurs. So it's going to be pretty cool to be able to say, hey, you see a new dinosaur described in the news, you know, from the Almond Formation of Wyoming, and then click on the article, go to the original paper, look at the acknowledgments, and bow, there's your name, you know, preserved for eternity there. That's going to be pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, very excited for that too. Me too, Tommy Ploticus. Yes, indeed. But yeah, Trey Poole says, how do you talk about dinosaurs with Jehovah's Witnesses? I've done this before. Yeah, I don't know. I just speak from personal experience. You know, they come to the door. I offer them a water bottle because you can't give them a glass of water. They can only accept a water bottle. It's not open. Yeah, I don't know. They ask what you do, and I say, well, I dig up dinosaurs, you know? Yeah, I've actually talked to... Oh, there's a little lizard over there. Oh, let's see if we can go say hi. Oh, he's going under the rock. Shoot. We missed our chance. He was doing push-ups. I've seen so many lizards today. It's brought me a lot of joy. Anyway, no, I just speak from personal experience. Like, I've talked with a... Oh! Lizard. Look, on the rock. Oh, there he goes. There's two of them. They're like chasing each other. Let's see if we can get close. You beautiful little lizard. What you up to? Want to say hi to the Twitch chat? You a fence lizard? What are you? Hi. Yeah, you're beautiful. Hello, hello. Wow, look at you. You look like a fence lizard. You got a kind of a pointier snout. Ooh. Well, hello. You having a territorial dispute here? Oh, look at that blue belly. Look at those push-ups. You're so strong. You're so strong. Don't mess with you. Holy cow. Oh, there he goes. We're not going to harass him too much. I think that's a male, because I think only the males have got those striking blue bellies like that. Probably trying to drive another male off of his territory. Or maybe that's the other male's territory and he just took it over. I don't know. witnessing a lizard Game of Thrones here. But yeah. Anyway, what did Jehovah's... So, yeah, from what I understand, Jehovah's Witnesses, like, don't believe in dinosaurs. I think they're fake or something. I don't know, you know? So I just speak from personal experience. Like, I dig up dinosaurs, I study them. Make of that what you will, you know? That's the thing. I found that you'll never actually convince anybody if you only give them facts. They have to be able to relate to you on a personal level and, like, come to trust you before they'll actually care about any facts that you have to give them, you know? That's part of why I'm doing what I do here on Twitch, you know? I think we had a couple of people who came in earlier and said something like, you know, like, oh, dinosaurs are fake or something like that. And I don't know. People are probably just trolling. But if there are any people who, like, earnestly claim to believe that, the way to reach them is just, I don't know, just be cool. Let them, like, relate to you on a personal level so they realize that, you know, scientists are not out to fool them or anything like that, you know? It, like, goes back to that old phrase. It's kind of corny, but, like, when you're trying to relay information to somebody, you know, somebody won't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. You know? They have to be able to relate to you and see your passion and see your enthusiasm and go, hey, you know, this guy's all right. That's kind of what I'm trying to do here, you know? I think it's really important to show people how science works, walk them through the process, so it's not some, you know, nebulous, mysterious thing. It's not some cabal of, you know, cloistered eggheads in a laboratory. Like, we're scientists out here doing field work, digging up dinosaurs. This is how it works, and I think being able to see that firsthand makes it so much more relatable. So yeah. Anyway, but yeah. Let's go back and look at the quarry again real quick. And then we'll probably ask Fisher to give us a little tour. He was doing an inventory of all these little bits of bone that he was finding on the surface. And hopefully I didn't trod upon any of them. They should actually be lower down along that horizon there. It's a little cairn that he set up with those stacked rocks. That's to denote some bone coming out. But we want to be able to figure out what is the extent of this horizon that's bearing all these bones. Is this all the same animal? Could it be multiple individuals? What's going on here? We got to be really careful and meticulous about how we explore a site like this, so we're not losing any of the evidence. So Fisher's going to walk us through that in just a minute. Yeah. And Milky Way view from here is pretty good astronomy show, but there's a surprising amount of light pollution out here. So it's not as good as it was in, like, Montana, or even in, like, parts of Utah that I've dug in before. Yeah, this part of Wyoming, we got a surprising amount of light pollution over the horizon. Yeah. But yeah. And let's see here. What was this? Using our tax-paying money to do your business, says Zodiac Killer. Yeah, that's not... Sorry, but you're wrong about that. This is funded through Twitch chat. Community funded. The whole idea was that, yeah, people are contributing to science and, yeah, being able to, you know, help us dig up these dinosaurs. Yeah. Well, of course, we're working on public land, so I guess some taxpayer dollars are going toward maintaining this landscape and making sure that it's available for everybody's use and enjoyment. So yeah, we will have some BLM officials, Bureau of Land Management officials, visiting us at some point next week. We're going to show them the site and tell them how to identify dinosaur bone and stuff like that. But so yeah, I guess they're taxpayer funded and their salaries and everything, but we're certainly not. We're a volunteer crew, and but you know, your donation money, Twitch chat, has gone toward buying us supplies and, you know, gas money so we can get out here. So deeply grateful for that. Thank you again. And I saw another lizard right over here, and it must have scurried right under a rock. Yeah. So many lizards today. Makes me happy. Love me some lizards. Yeah. How hot is it getting here, UComp? Not very hot. It's in like the 70s. Yeah. And how long am I going to be out digging? I'm going to be digging here until about the 30th. And then taking a little break for a couple weeks, doing some traveling, and then coming back to Utah. And I'm going to be digging there for about 3 weeks, maybe a month, starting on July 17th or so. And I'll take you along for that, too. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah. Anyway, good stuff. We've got 337 people watching, according to my count. Let's go back to the quarry. For anybody who's new, I'll show you that duckbill dinosaur thigh bone again. And we'll have Fisher take us on a little tour of this area and show you some other bits of bone that are poking out. Clues that this is possibly a bone bed. Maybe multiple duckbill dinosaurs, or maybe just one really big one that's pieces are scattered all around. We're still trying to figure that out. Yeah. But yeah. Starlink finally paying off. There you go, Mayor Space. Yep. Let's look at that again on our way back to the quarry. There's our dish right there. There is our router. Apologies for the repetition, anybody who's been here since the beginning of stream, but we got new people trickling in, eager to show this stuff off. So this is the reason we can stream. What are we at battery-wise right now? We are at 83%, not bad. All right. Yeah. But yeah. And Jody Fish says, do the sandstones have enough layering that they may have fossils in books? These ones are pretty massive sandstones, so probably not too many fossils in the sandstones themselves. Oh, but they're wonderful basking spots for lizards like this. Look at that guy. Oh, he's hiding. Yeah. Says we're live. Are we still on? Oh, okay, great. Huh. Yeah. That issue may have arisen. I think our most parsimonious explanation is I was standing in front of the dish because the lizard lured me there. So I guess it really was because of the lizard, huh? Anyway. Live and learn. Yeah. Try not to do that again. But, yeah. I, for one, welcome our new lizard overlords. You and me both, Kite Elric. Yes, indeed. Yeah. How many of you, when you woke up this morning, thought you would see a paleontologist outwitted by a lizard live? It just happened. Anyway, let's take a look at the quarry down here. So again, for those of you just tuning in, we are in the late Cretaceous Almond Formation of western Wyoming. And here is Fisher and Terrence doing some digging.
Found some turtle shell just now.
Ooh, turtle shell. Let's go take a look. Yeah, and then Fisher, if it's okay with you, if you could take us on a little tour of some of the cool goodies from around the corner.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Let's see here. And hang on a minute. It says 511 viewers right now. Is that correct? That would be pretty awesome. Wonder if you got a raid or something. I also like turtles, Johnny Autonomous. I like turtles. And here we have some. Cretaceous turtles.
It's the first one I found. The pattern is
Beautiful.
very obvious.
Yeah, look at that. Thank you, Terrence.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like probably trianicid turtle, so like a soft-shelled turtle, based on the pattern.
Unsure if this is associated.
Looks like it. I mean, it might be a margin of a plastron or something. So like the kind of the chest plate of the turtle. Yeah, see that distinctive turtle texture right there? You see those bumps right there? We do have some kind of concretionary stuff on here, so in the lab that would get prepped off. This would all be cleaned. But that is the turtle texture right there, that kind of lumpy bit. Yeah, very turtly.
Okay, now I do see that that's on the other side as well, that awesome sheen.
Yeah, nice. Very nice. Good stuff. Good find. Where'd you find it?
Thank you. It's right in this area, so I've been
Yeah.
hoping for more, but nothing yet.
Very cool. Nice spot. So again, when we're out here digging dinosaurs, it's not just the dinosaurs that we're after. We want a complete picture of this ancient ecosystem, as complete as we can get. So any other critters or plants, frankly, that we can find in these environments, they're all clues as to what this ancient environment would have been like. What's the, like Ethan said, the cast of characters here in this movie. Good stuff. Yeah. Anything new and exciting over here, Fish?
Not much.
Okay. It is definitely slow going a lot in a dinosaur quarry like this, but we'll eventually reach a point where we know where a lot of the bones are, and it's going to get pretty exciting then. But here's one of the bones. This, for those of you who are just joining us, is the femur of a duckbill dinosaur. Yeah, pretty big. So this is a thigh bone. And I'm not sure if this is the proximal or distal end. If it's the proximal end, then the femur head should be right here, and that may have broken off long ago. In fact, that's probably an ancient break. Could even be chewed off by a scavenger or something. It's kind of futile to speculate about stuff like this early on, because we don't have very much information yet. The thing's still in the ground. But yeah, so I was digging over here earlier. There's some of my tools right there. And yeah. Here you see a glue bottle with our PVA glue on the inside. So when I continue digging along here, and actually get some of this concretionary crud off of there, this bone is just going to drink up this glue. So, and that's weird. It's weird how the bootvar is, like, the stuff is settling out. You can see the particles in there. I don't know why it's doing that. It should be dissolved in the acetone. May have just gotten a bad batch of this stuff. But yeah, I'm not used to glues doing that kind of thing. Yeah, let me get some water, and then, Fish, are you ready for a little tour maybe?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Hydrate first. By the way, like much of my gear, this water bottle was a gift from a viewer. So thank you, viewer. It was a long time ago. My memory is not that great when it comes to remembering who got me what. But no, you know who you are, and I am deeply grateful. You're keeping me hydrated out here, and I appreciate that immensely. Keeping me alive. Yeah. Yeah, so Fish, let's go check out some of the stuff that the other crew members found, including yourself. Yeah. So, let's see, how many days has it been that you've been working at this site so far this season?
Let's see. Sometimes the time kind of flows together.
It really does.
Especially when you're working at multiple sites, but I'd say probably about, 4 or 5 days.
4 or 5 days? Cool. This is my first day at this site, so this is all kind of new to me. Yeah, so Fisher's, I guess, our resident expert for right now. Although Terrence worked here last year, too, so...
Right here we have our first little exposed bone.
Yeah, so you can see that bony texture right there. So this is the bony interior texture, so this would be... Yeah, look at that. Like all the blood vessels and stuff inside the bone. Got that kind of scrungy, spongy texture.
This is where the
technical terms.
Bone marrow would be formed.
Yeah.
It's trabecular bone, as opposed to cortical bone, which is the outside surface.
Right. Is this... I mean, I know this is kind of concretion-y up here, but you think this is cortical bone on the surface there?
I'm not sure. It could be sandstone. Looks to be
There is
sandstone.
definitely some sandstone on there. Yeah.
There are better examples of some cortical bone further down the line, though.
So we're going to try and figure out if this is from the same animal or maybe from something different. Sometimes you do get a bunch of animals preserved in the same place, and sometimes you get a bunch of the same kind of animal preserved in the same place. And sometimes you just get one really big animal. And so we're trying to figure that out right now.
So right here is where we have our biggest fragment. So this is
Yeah, look
part
at that
of
vert.
the vertebra. So this is the centrum here, probably the upper quarter of it.
So that's like the body of the vertebra, the round part right there.
Right.
Yeah, and it's broken along this surface. So this would be a huge animal.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be like one of the biggest hadrosaur vertebrae I have ever seen. This animal would be huge, like maybe T-Rex sized, like approaching like maybe 13 meters, like 40 feet long.
So right here is the slot where the spinal cord would go through. It's the neural canal.
Neural canal right there. Very cool. Here, show the camera again, because that's pretty neat. Yeah, right there. That's where the animal's spinal cord would go through. Pretty awesome.
Some other pieces of it here. So we got this, which probably fits in right over here.
Ooh, okay.
That.
Wait, is that... How are you holding that? Is it part of the transverse process?
Yeah,
or?
I think so. So we've got one here on the opposite side.
Yeah.
It fits in kind of right like that.
So these are like the wings on the side of the vertebrae, those things that project laterally out of the sides, the transverse processes.
Yeah, here's another, probably the end of the transverse process. It's broken off.
Nice. Holy cow. And yeah, see, there is your cortical bone tissue, cortical bone surface. So yeah, this is what dinosaur bone looks like, everybody. And you know, it might look like a rock, and in fact, it will look like a rock until you get some more practice. But to me, this just jumps right out, that texture like that. Yeah.
We got some other chunks of it in here.
And people who are really experienced in the field can actually identify, is this a ceratopsian, is it a duckbill dinosaur, is it a tyrannosaur, just based on the texture of the exterior bone or the texture of the interior bone. Because all these animals, you know, they split from each other tens of millions of years before. Actually, some probably like 100 million years.
Yeah.
If they split in the Triassic, yeah. So they've had a long time to evolve in different directions, and you get very different textures.
Got some more pieces of centrum here.
Nice. It's so thin for a centrum.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by that.
It potentially could have been compressed
Yeah.
during the fossilization process.
Or it could maybe be... There's a chance this could be ceratopsian. Because I seem to recall Triceratops having pretty, antero-posteriorly compressed centra. But it's been a long time.
There's some more pieces. Not sure if this is from the same vertebra, but this could be the neural spine that comes off the top.
Yeah. What we would call the spinous process in humans, because humans are so special. But very cool.
And we've got what looks to be an ungule here.
Yeah, that is really cool. Here, I'm going to want to hold that if I can swap you. This is a claw from a plant-eating dinosaur, or I guess a hoof. It's kind of small for a pedal digit for an animal with vertebrae that big. I don't know what their manual ungules look like. If they look like this or if they look like something else. But yeah. So yeah, it's almost kind of like spade-shaped or like arrowhead-shaped, where it pinches in right here and right here. But yeah, this is the top right there, and you can see that rugose surface. It's like got all these pits on it. And so, see all those pits on there, chat? Those are for blood vessels going through. So there would have been a material, almost like fingernail, what we call keratin, that would coat this. And so all of these little pits in there are to supply that keratin with nutrients through the blood vessels. Very, very cool. This is my favorite piece so far. Really nice. It looks like it was on the surface for a long time, too. It's like all kind of bleached, and I don't see any lichen on it, but...
No.
Was it right there on the surface?
Yeah, it was right on the surface.
Yeah,
in association with the big piece of centrum.
So this thing could have been out in the elements for decades, maybe even a century, before Fisher found it. Very cool. Thanks, Fisher.
Of course. A little bit further down, we've got another piece of probably the same vertebra.
Nice.
Ethan was saying this is part of the neural arch.
It looks like it, yeah. Very cool. You can see how it kind of sweeps out to the sides like that.
This was just very recently taken out of the substrate. We just found one little piece sticking out, dig around a little bit in the dust and pull it out.
Nice. Very nice. It does make me... Is this all the same animal? Like, is this just one 40-foot long duckbill? Because again, the quarry is around the corner over here. And we are a good distance away. Of course, these things can get scattered over a wide range, especially if they're in like a river system. But the bigger the animal, the easier it is for it to spread across a wide distance. Very cool. Yeah.
Okay, if we go a little further up, following these cairns to mark where the bone was found. Up here,
Very careful not to step on them.
got a big chunk of what looks to be some turtle.
Oh, yeah. Chonky turtle. This is turtle under here too. So this is, yeah, that is a thick shell. Do you think it actually extends all the way through the height of that? Is that all bone? Like on the underside, this is...
Looks like it could be matrix.
Yeah.
But, well, it looks like there's some bone in here.
Very nice. Yeah. Big old turtle. Holy cow. That is not a small critter. You know, in the Cretaceous, turtles reached their peak diversity throughout life history. So, like, there's something like 22, 23 species of turtle up in the Hell Creek Formation. And there would probably be something close to that here. The ancestor of all those turtles. But look at those distinctive grooves going across the shell right there. Very cool. Like Ethan was saying, I'd love to find the rest of this guy. That would be awesome. Really neat. Yeah.
Alright, we can follow down here a little bit. Kind of a series of highest occurrences where we're finding the bone and nothing above it, but a lot below it.
Uh-huh.
Kind of going in a slanting pattern down here. We've got some little fragments here. This looks like it could be some more of that ossified tendon.
Yeah, that's definitely what it is. Nice and thick. More of that ossified tendon. So this like ligament that turns to bone as the animal matures. Pretty cool.
Some shards like that. It's probably the most common thing you'd find if you're out prospecting.
Yeah, this is a good clue that like there's a dinosaur here. This is usually the first sort of thing that we find that clues us into like we gotta follow this up the hill and see where it's coming out because there's bone to be found. Nice. And then another last little piece right there. Yeah. Very cool. Thank you, Fisher.
Of course.
Very, very cool. Yeah. And, did we get a raid or something? We got some new viewers. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Paleontologizing.
Another couple pieces that were found in association.
Oh, nice. Did they click?
Don't think so, but it's
Okay.
possible if we mess around with them long enough that we might find a spot where they go together.
Yeah. Interesting how thin this is. That's an interesting texture. Like, it almost kind of looks scully.
Well,
But-
considering what's so close nearby, it's very possible it could be scully.
Yeah, shoot. That would be awesome. And look at the surface is all concreted with this like sandstone crud on top. But on this side, it's clean and beautiful. So this stuff would get cleaned off in the laboratory later. Will get cleaned off, I should say. Because we will collect this stuff. But right now, I guess we're just leaving this here in place so that we can try and figure out where it's coming out so we know where to dig in.
There.
Yeah. Nice. Very nice.
Alright, going around here. Pulled this out a couple days ago.
Oh, that is gorgeous, Fisher. Look at that. So, everybody, this is probably a chunk of a maxilla or maybe a dentary, but those are tooth rows right there. Gorgeous.
And only this part was sticking out.
Good find.
So-
Holy cow.
You know, you look for that kind
Uh-huh.
of bony texture there and dig around a little bit, you might find something really sweet like this.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, you have to have a sharp eye. out
Yeah,
there.
seriously. So, yeah, good eyes, Fisher. Holy moly. Here, can I show chat again real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Look at that. So those are the tooth rows. So these animals had tons and tons of teeth. Hadrosaurs, they might hold the record for the dinosaurs with the most teeth. They can have like over 1,000. But yeah, holy cow. That is beautiful. And it's really exciting because this is part of the skull. So like, we've got skull material here. The skull is the part that you want. That's the most diagnostic piece. Well, series of pieces. The skull has got how many bones in it? Holy cow, it's like
'It's like
50 or 60 or something like that at least. So So yeah, this is super exciting because it shows that we have skull here. And that is the piece that we want. Like, we want skull material so we can describe this animal. Super exciting, Fisher. This is really, really cool. This goes right here?
Right in here.
Right in there, okay.
This baggie is just a series of little smaller pieces that we've collected in this area.
Nice.
So there's some turtle, there's some gar, there's some dinosaur all in there.
Very nice.
So there's some turtle.
Yeah, there's a piece of turtle shell right there.
Here too.
More turtle. Big piece of turtle, yeah.
Yeah, there's another piece of turtle. Some nice texturing on it.
It's like trianicid texture again. Or maybe, I don't know. I'm not, Chad, I apologize. I'm not as good with my turtle identification as I once was. But, very exciting. So any idea where this is coming out?
I'm thinking, since all these highest occurrences are kind of in a row, probably right underneath that sandstone block there.
Nice. Which is interesting because our ceratopsian was also under a sandstone layer like this. So I wonder what's going on there where... Yeah. Could be coincidence, or there could be something really interesting going on lithologically, where we're just getting these dinosaurs preserved under, you know, maybe when it turns from a floodplain into a river or something like that that's laying down these massive sandstones. Interesting stuff. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Fisher. I appreciate that.
Happy to show it off.
This is exciting stuff, everybody. New dinosaur here. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of hang out here for a minute.
Of course.
If you want to get back to work.
Yeah, if you want to check out any of these other little cairns, there's a bunch of little bone fragments around them.
Ooh, okay. I think I will. Thanks, Fish.
Of course.
Yeah. Everybody say thank you to Fisher. Yeah. Yeah, you too. Thanks, man. Bye. All right. Nice. But yeah, hang on. Is the star... Goodness. Oh, we're back. Okay. That's entirely like a Starlink issue, I think, you guys. Yeah, it'll just cut out every once in a while. So, don't despair. I'll usually be back in just a minute or two. But I just got a phone call from Ethan, and, yeah, good stuff. Anyway, hello, everybody. And it looks like we've got 407 people watching. Holy moly. If it is your first time here, if you're just tuning in, welcome to Paleontologizing. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. You probably know already a paleontologist is a scientist who studies fossils. I work on dinosaur fossils in particular, and I'm out here in western Wyoming digging up dinosaurs live on stream. So we are out in the Wyoming desert, fairly remote, and it looks like And we're back. Good. Again, I've been standing next to the router for like a minute or two now, so I think it's just a Starlink issue. Yeah. But just in case, let me move the router a little bit closer to the edge of the rock, just so we've got a clear line of sight, and I can ensure that that's not the issue. Here we go. Just put that right there. That should do it. Nice. Okay. Good stuff. Yeah. So yeah, let's just poke around a little bit and look at some more stuff coming out over here. More bits and pieces. Kind of a sample platter of hadrosaur, duckbill dinosaur. Look for some more of these cairns. There's one down there. Try to find the ones that Fisher hadn't shown us yet. Yeah. L.E. Bunnies, I'm glad you love dinosaurs. You're in the right place. Holy cow. Welcome to Paleontologizing. We're digging up a brand new dinosaur right now. Exciting stuff. Yeah. So yeah, oh, we already looked at this. There's our chunk of turtle right there. Yeah. All kinds of concretionary crud on it. But bring that into the laboratory, get it all cleaned up. This could be a diagnostic piece. It'd be really interesting to know what kinds of turtles we actually have in this environment. Because nobody's described any turtles from the Almond Formation yet. And turtles are critters that evolve pretty quickly. We've got a pretty good handle on which turtles lived when, and yeah, we very well might have some brand new turtles also, which would be pretty cool. Yeah. And yep, a duck-billed dinosaur. Yes, indeed, Cloudy Sprite, a hadrosaur. Yeah. And it's the Almond Formation, you know, like the nut, almond. Not very well known. It's pretty obscure. Barnum Brown, the paleontologist who discovered Tyrannosaurus rex, he worked in the Almond Formation back in 1937. And he found a few things. He found a ceratopsian skull. He found a duck-billed dinosaur that I think may have since been lost. Sometimes, you know, yeah. It's hopefully just been temporarily lost. It's going to be in a museum collection somewhere, most likely in New York City, at the AM&H. But he never named any of these critters. He never described them. Never scientifically published on them. And so, yeah, this is still a new frontier. You know, old Uncle Barnum came through 80-something years ago. But, yeah. These dinosaurs are still new because he didn't name them. Which is pretty cool. Yeah. And the landscape is beautiful. Thank you, Cloudy Sprite. It is pretty nice, isn't it? Yeah. Not the prettiest place I've ever worked. Honestly, you know, for being honest here, I think I prefer the area that I'll show you in Utah later this summer. Out in the Cedar Mountain Formation. But this is nice too. Wyoming is very austere. It's been very windy. Been blessed with beautiful weather today. It's not too hot. It's not too windy. There's not too much lightning. In fact, there's been no lightning so far here today. So, yeah, we're sitting pretty. Yeah. And how can stuff get lost in the museum? It happens, Wheelie Man. I mean, it happens, unfortunately. When you're dealing with like almost 100 years worth of time, things get misplaced sometimes. Yeah. Things used to get lost with much greater frequency a long time ago. Nowadays, you know, you've got digital receipts for things. You've got museum databases. You've got properly labeled drawers and, you know, museum curators who maybe stick around for a bit longer and pass on that institutional knowledge, let's hope. So things don't get lost nearly as often today, in my experience, as they used to. You know, we've been working in museums for a lot longer and kind of worked out a lot of the kinks. Back in the early 1900s, museums were still a fairly new thing. You know, one of the first real museums was the London's Museum of Natural History, and that, you know, Richard Owen helped start that back in what, the 1830s or something. So museums, in the grand scheme of things, are kind of a fairly new innovation when you look at all of human history. And yeah, we've been working out the kinks for a long time. But yeah. And UComp says entire elasmosaur skeleton. That was our interesting UComp. Yeah. You'd be amazed at the things that turn up in a museum collections. It's pretty interesting. Yeah. And there you go, Goniotratus, yeah. Especially when you have multiple people moving things, you have specimens that get sent out on loan to other institutions, and you've got a lot of things that can happen. But it is still much better having things in a museum collections than in like a private collection usually, you know. But yeah. And how old is the duckbill? Probably about 73 million years. Rums, debums. Good question. Yeah. So again, we're working the Almond Formation, late Cretaceous, kind of straddling the Campanian-Maastrichtian boundary almost. So yeah, it's going to be about 7 million years older than like the first T-Rex or Triceratops. Maybe 5 or 6 million years. It depends on how you date the bottom of the Hell Creek Formation. But anyway, yeah, good stuff. So here potentially we've got the there is the potential to find the ancestors of dinosaurs like Triceratops and T-Rex and Edmontosaurus here in these rocks. The duckbill we're digging up, that could possibly, conceivably be the ancestor of Edmontosaurus, aka Anatotitan. Big duckbill dinosaur, the biggest dinosaur in the Hell Creek. It gets bigger than T-Rex. Yeah. But yeah. And Durandal the Sword wants to know, what makes fossils stay fairly near the topsoil? If you were to dig 2 or 3 stories down, would there be more intact skeletons? There would be. There's nothing that makes the fossils, be here on the surface except erosion. If you had magic X-ray eyes and you could look through these rocks, well, you'd see a lot more rock. It'd be tough to decipher the rock from the fossil. But if your magic eyes could decipher the rocks from the fossils, you would see fossils going down all the way through these. But they're not evenly spaced. If you were to just dig a random hole somewhere, very unlikely that you would find anything worth collecting. Very unlikely that you would find, dinosaur fossils. So the way that we actually find these things is by walking along and just looking at the ground. And so you find usually little bits of bone that are starting to become exposed on the surface. So let's see if we can find some, actually. Well, Fisher built a little cairn right here. For instance, this is what you might find right there on the surface. So this is dinosaur bone. And so compare that to, say, this rock right here. The rock looks very rocky. The bone looks very bony. Oh yeah, it's got that nice kind of bone texture like that. It's an organic kind of texture. This is something that was built by an organism as it was growing. So you see those striations running across there? That is bone texture. And so basically what we do is we walk along and we look for bits of bone like that exposed on the surface. And that's how we discover a dinosaur. So usually there are bits that have kind of eroded out and tumbled down the hill. So you look for bits of bone like that, and then you kind of mark where they've been. So here Fisher has marked them with these cairns. And then you can walk up the hill and you try and find the highest point where there's bone on the surface. Because these things tumble downhill, And so if you can find the highest point, then you might get close to the layer where they're actually coming out. So after that, you might dig into the hill, expecting to find some more bone. That's how we do it. Does that make sense? Yeah. But yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. And so people know. Well, we know that there should be bone in this area because the rocks are of the right age. Field paleontology is all about. Think of it like time travel. You're going back in time. You got to make sure you're going back to the right time. So we got to find rocks of the right age. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So here we know that the rocks are about 73 million years old, and that's really exciting because we don't have dinosaurs from that age yet from this part of the world. So it's a really interesting area to explore. And there have been other groups of paleontologists who have come here, hung out for about 3 weeks, looked for fossils, and didn't find a single scrap of anything worth collecting. And it doesn't mean that they didn't know what they were doing. Part of it is that they seem to have gotten really bad weather. The weather in this particular part of Wyoming can be terrible. So they were, besieged by really awful weather for a long time. And I guess sometimes you just have bad luck and you don't really find anything. But there's one particular area here where there's all kinds of bone. And we've been finding it. So yeah. What kind of rock is this? Well, we've got some sandstone, we've got some mudstone. And an erosional surface like this, these sandstone blocks have all tumbled down from up there. So they erode out, they get weather-beaten, sun and wind and rain and snow and ice break these things apart, and then they kind of slowly make their way down the hill. So that's what this came from, this big massive sandstone like this came from up there, at Sandstone Horizon. But then underneath, you've got kind of less consolidated sandstone. This stuff has been really, really weathered. You get mudstones, yeah. But if you want to actually find a dinosaur skeleton, what we call in situ, like in the rock where it's been for the past 73 million years, then you got to actually get down to under all of this crud that's all washed down. You got to get down to like the rock itself where it's fresh. Does that make sense? Yeah. And Durandal says, so it's just luck from erosion to find a shard, then you try to find the source of the shard? Basically, yeah. Seems like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It must require a lot of patience. It does. Absolutely, yeah. Occasionally you get really, really lucky and you find a really nice piece just right there on the surface, especially if the bone is really, really hard. If it's been very well preserved, then it can resist erosion for a long time, and maybe you'll find, you know, a really good chunk of a jaw with the teeth still in it or something like that. But that seems to be pretty rare in this formation. Like, it's hard going. It's, you know, technical prospecting. You've got to really know what the shards of bone look like, and you've got to be really good at spotting them and then following them into the hill. Yeah. But yeah. Turtle killed by a dinosaur on the beach, says Andy then did. I mean, I'm sure these dinosaurs some of them were eating turtles every once in a while. Duckbill dinosaurs, if a turtle isn't too careful, might get stomped on by a duckbill. Yeah. And how does the 1 cubic meter law apply? Is that per animal or what, Trekner? It's kind of ambiguous, but we try and adhere to the spirit of the law, because sometimes the letter of the law isn't all that clear. It's not 1 cubic meter, it's 1 square meter, actually. But yeah. The whole point is we don't want to disturb the landscape too much. We don't want to dig a big obnoxious hole unless we have a special permit for it. You know, we want to respect this landscape as much as we can because this belongs to all of us. This is public land, you know, federal land. It belongs to we the people of the United States. We got to be respectful of that, you know? Yeah. But yeah, and you're welcome, Durandal. Thank you for the good questions. Yeah. Looks like we've 261 viewers for 14 minutes. I guess that's because that cut out. And Cooking Fat says, how likely is it that on the other end of that thigh bone is part of the pelvis? I'll have to dig in and see. Yeah. It doesn't look too likely at this point because all the other pieces of the animal that we found have been disarticulated. So they're all, you know, they've fallen apart. But there is a chance that part of the animal might still be together. I mean, we won't know until we dig in a little bit further. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. And make away, I don't know what that means. But welcome, make away. Yeah. And let's see. Maddie Holmes says, it's also if you dig everything up at once, the site is completely lost and destroyed. I mean, to a certain extent, yeah. Sometimes we have to do that because we don't have a lot of time or our permit will expire. Not sure if we're going to get a permit for next season, stuff like that. I feel like we're kind of under more constraints than an archaeologist might be. Paleontology tends to be much more poorly funded, and we've got smaller crews. Yeah, we wouldn't be out here right now if it weren't for your support, everybody. You know, that fundraiser, that's the reason that we can be out here doing this work in the wind. But yeah. And sometimes some of these sites, there's only a few isolated bones, so we just collect those. We take take some GPS coordinates, make sure we can relocate the site later. Maybe we'll do a strat section, so like you kind of measure out the different rock layers so you can figure out where you are in time. Yeah, for a ceratopsian site, you know, I just closed that out yesterday with Fisher, and yeah. You know, you kind of get the stuff while the getting's good, and you make sure you collect as much data as possible, because a fossil without data is worthless. It's, you know, it's barely a paperweight or a doorstop. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. And Oh, an interesting Goniatratus. I mean, other paleontologist Barnum Brown used dynamite when he was digging up the first Tyrannosaurus fossil, the holotype of T-Rex. Or maybe that was AMNH 5027? That might not be the holotype. Anyway, when he was out at Hell Creek, right on the banks of the Hell Creek, yeah, he used dynamite because that rock was extremely hard. And he found that as long as you're more than 8 inches from the bone, it was safe to use dynamite without damaging the fossil. But it was just to get rid of the overlying rock because he had very little money, a small crew, and not very much time before the winter snows would come and make work there impossible. So, yeah, and there are still some paleontological crews that do use explosives. It's not as common as it used to be, but there are crews that do that. Yeah. But yeah. And T-Dogatino says, how will climate change impact paleontology, if at all? I mean, it gets hotter during the summers. It gets more difficult to work in areas like this. In some areas, climate change might be kind of I'm not going to say a good thing, but it might make paleontological work a little bit easier because if there's a massive drought and all the plants die in an area, you've got more exposed rock and you're more likely to find good fossils. Erosion increases. In other places, it's going to be a lot more difficult because you'll have extreme weather patterns. It'll just be so hot to the point where you can't work out there. There will be parts of the world where it's going to be almost impossible to dig dinosaurs in the future if climate change increases in the way that it has been, if it keeps going. So yeah. Linina says, I imagine digging with explosives is frowned upon on BLM land. I think you might need a special permit for that, but I don't know. Yeah. The thing is, if you demonstrate to the BLM that you're responsible and you're respectful of the land and you're not going to do anything too crazy, yeah, you got to make sure that you maintain a good relationship with the people who are the stewards of this land. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, good stuff. Let's look at some more of these cairns and look at some more of this bone. And if you got any more questions, don't hesitate. Yeah. Here we go. Yep, there's that other piece. We looked at this earlier. Of that vertebra right there. So yeah. I'm trying to make sense of this right now. This looks like it could be part of a transverse process, but there's more of that bone texture there that you can see. That is not rock, that is bone. And the more modern bones that you look at, especially if they're kind of broken and you can see the interior structure, they can make you better at finding fossil bone like this. Yeah. Fossil bones like this break in a million zillion different ways. And, yeah. So, really keeps you on the alert. And is there a bone right there? Nope, that is rock, not a bone. But that's how prospecting goes. You walk along until you find something that looks funny. You pick it up. You inspect it. Not bone. That is rock right there. Yeah. And Oscar Jr. says, can paleontologists determine the age of the rock layers, or is a geologist required? I mean, sometimes they're one and the same. Yeah. So like a lot of paleontologists have extensive geological training. I really don't, honestly. I'm a subpar geologist, certainly. But yeah, some paleontologists can date the rocks better than geologists can, because sometimes you can't get a good radiometric date. You can't actually determine the exact age of the rocks themselves just based on their chemistry, radioactive isotopes and stuff. Sometimes you can't do that. So you have to do what we call biostratigraphy. And so in biostratigraphy, it's like, life layers, biostratigraphy. You look for different kinds of fossils in the rock layers. And sometimes if it's from a really well-studied group, like for instance, ammonites different species last like 1 million years or maybe less. And so the ammonites are changing throughout the rock layers. And if each one of these is tied to a particular time, if you go to a new area and you find a certain kind of ammonite, you can know, bingo, it's from this particular time, because that's the only time when this particular species of ammonite lived. So Jim Kirkland did that. I think that was his PhD project. So we'll talk to him about that later on in the summer when we do some interviews. But yeah, fossils can actually help date the rocks themselves, which is really, really cool. And then you can independently check that. Say, like, nobody's been able to find a good ash bed in there in order to get an exact date, a numeric date, but they have ammonites. Well, later on, if somebody does find a good ash and you can correlate it to that layer, then you can test that independently and see if they match up. And, you know, they almost always do. So yeah. And holy cow, this is awesome. We've got a big old raid. Welcome everybody to Paleontologizing. Yeah. Hello everybody. Welcome to the desert of western Wyoming. I'm out here digging dinosaurs. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist, and I'm here on Twitch trying to do some good old-fashioned science outreach. Right now we're doing an off-the-grid stream through the use of the Starlink up there. You can see the router sitting on top of that sandstone block. Yeah. So in a minute or two, I'll show you our duckbill dinosaur that we're digging up. It's almost certainly going to be a new species. But yeah, welcome everybody. Holy cow. Yeah. Good stuff. And Gita Aloha, I don't really need much aloe vera out here. I don't really burn that much, and I've got sunscreen on. But yeah. Anyway, I'm just showing people some of the little bits of bone on the surface. That's how we can tell that there is bone coming out, and then you kind of follow that into the hill. You dig in, and maybe you get a skeleton, you know? So yeah. And my face is not actually burnt, Brenda. It's definitely not. No. But thank you for your concern. I appreciate you. Yeah. But yeah. Anna Maja, how are you doing? Dig that partner badge. What's shaking? Good to have you here. Here, let's walk along and find another cairn over here so I can show you some more bone. There's one down there. Let's go look at that and hope that we'll stay within range of our Wi-Fi there. Yeah. But yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. And welcome everybody who's new. Hey, shoot, if any of you have any questions about paleontology, about science in general, don't be shy, you know? This is my full-time job here on Twitch, believe it or not. This is how I make my living, doing science outreach, and I'm thrilled to be able to do that from the field, you know, live from a dinosaur dig. Yeah, so it's wonderful to have this opportunity. And how often do you get to watch a dinosaur dig live on stream, you know? Well, this summer it'll be a lot because I'm going to be streaming through August. But yeah, don't be shy with those questions, you know? Let's see here. What are the best steps I can take to become a fossil for future generations of you, says Screws? Make sure that your bones get buried in what we call a depositional environment. So all the fossils that we find in here come from lake sediments, river sediments, delta sediments. Your bones have got to be buried by sediment that will eventually become sedimentary rock. Most bones just end up on the surface. Like yesterday I found a dead deer, or a couple days ago I found a dead deer, and the bones are just there on the surface bleaching in the sun. They're just crumbling to dust. If you want to become a fossil, you got to get buried, usually by water, but we also get fossils that are buried in aeolian environments, like wind-blown sand and stuff. But yeah, so yeah, make sure it's a depositional environment where rock is building up, not an area where rock is being eroded. So this is very much an erosional environment, not depositional. These rocks are eroding away. And yeah. So this would be a terrible place to become a fossil. You want to get yourself into a swamp, or a bayou, or a river delta, or maybe a quiet lake or something like that, where there's sediment being laid down. Places where rock is being formed. This is where rock is being destroyed. If you want to become a fossil, you go to a place where rock is being formed. Does that make sense? Yeah. So So yeah. Let's see. Willie Gaines says, have you found any giants? I mean, we've got a pretty big dinosaur over there. I'll show you in a couple minutes. But yeah. But for right now, let's take a look at this. So Fisher built a little cairn right here, showing that there is something of interest. I haven't actually seen this one yet. Hopefully I'm not standing on it. We should have some little bits of bone somewhere around here that I can show you. Yeah. Might be pretty subtle. That's not it. That's some sandstone. Well, let's see here. I'm still kind of getting adjusted to what the bone looks like at this site. And this may be something that he already collected, too, because I'm not seeing anything obvious on the surface. I'm not standing on it. So this must be something that he already collected. Yeah. Let's see if we can find another cairn, and then I'll take you back to the quarry in a minute, and I'll show you that big femur, that thigh bone. Yeah. Oh, and Moo Hoodles. How you doing, Moo? Welcome back. It's good to see you. Yeah. Let's see. Chiggy says this is geocaching at a whole new level, lol. Kind of, yeah. There's another cairn right here. And I see what looks like some bone right there, so let's check it out. Yep, there we are. Dinosaur bone. Yeah, look at that bony texture right there. So these are just broken fragments. And the idea here, for anybody who's just tuning in, this is how we find a dinosaur. You don't just find a beautiful skeleton eroding out of a hillside or anything. What you usually find are little scraps, like this. You can identify the bone texture and go, shoot. That is something pretty massive for this environment. It's got to be a dinosaur. Or it could potentially be a crocodilian, but crocodilian bone doesn't really look like this. Anyway, so you find fragments of the bone like that on the surface, and then you just look around, you kind of record where all the bone is on the surface, and then you try and follow it up the hill until it stops. And where it stops, hopefully, is the actual horizon where the creature is eroding out. You dig in there, and if you're lucky, it'll turn into an associated skeleton. You'll get multiple bones in there, sometimes even something close to a complete skeleton. Maybe you'll get multiple complete skeletons. It happens. It's rare, but it happens. That's how we find dinosaurs. It might not seem super glamorous, it's, but it takes a practiced eye. It takes a lot of experience to be able to identify bone like this on the surface. And if you're really, really good and have a lot of experience, you might be able to look at that texture and go, the bone weave on that looks like it's hadrosaur, or it looks like it's ceratopsian, or theropod, or ankylosaur, or something. I don't know. It looks pretty nondescript to me, but most likely this is more of our duckbill dinosaur, because all the other pieces that we found that are identifiable seem to be from a duckbill dinosaur. And the femur that was dug up last fall is definitely from a duckbill. And we've got a new femur up there in just a minute. Yeah. And Screws, thank you so much for those gift subs. I really appreciate that. Hey, hats off. Thank you for your support. That's the only reason I can do this full time, is because of generous supporters like yourself, so thank you very much for that. Excellent stuff. Yeah. Willie Gaines says, what do you think happened to the dinosaurs? Well, we're pretty sure at this point. I'll put it this way. We know that above 66 million years ago, no more dinosaurs, except for birds. All the dinosaurs except for birds disappear 66 million years ago. Another big thing happened 66 million years ago, and that was the impact of an enormous asteroid in the Gulf of Mexico. We have the crater, we know it's 66 million years old, we know that it threw up these massive tsunamis, caused these massive wildfires, soot, probably blocked out the atmosphere, plants couldn't grow. It was a bad time to be a creature on planet Earth. So, coincidence that you've got this massive asteroid and the dinosaurs, except for birds, disappearing at the same time? No, that seems like they go together. And so that's the general kind of emerging consensus among paleontologists, is that the impact of an asteroid about 6 or 7 miles wide in the Gulf of Mexico, that's what ended the age of the dinosaurs. What drove the dinosaurs into extinction? And between like 70 and 90% of all other life on Earth, like tons and tons and tons of things died. It was like the majority of plant species disappear there. Bunch of fishes disappear. It's like 90% of mammals and birds and other critters get wiped out at that boundary. They just disappear. So, yeah. Anyway, long story short, we think it was an asteroid impact. We have the crater. There's a growing body of evidence about this. And if you ask other paleontologists, they'll give you pretty much the same answer. So there's a general consensus nowadays. Yeah. So yeah. And why would the birds be spared? They're pretty fragile, lol. Well, they weren't. I mean, it's maybe a few species of birds survived, but it's like 90% of birds probably died out at the boundary, including all the birds that used to have teeth. Gone. No longer. They all died out. So birds barely squeak through. Mammals, our ancestors, barely squeak through. Yeah. And things like crocodiles and turtles do a good bit better than mammals or birds. More of them survive for whatever reason. Maybe because they could just kind of hang out and eat all kinds of organic crud from all the dead critters. But like birds, many of whom nested in trees, well shoot, if all the trees are suddenly dead and gone, what are you going to do as a bird who nests in trees? Like, you die out. And that's probably what happened to them. It might be that only the birds that nested on the ground survived. So all the birds that we have today might be descended from birds that nested on the ground. That's one idea, at least. Yeah. But, yeah. And Steely Dan says, I remember watching a bunch of documentaries in the 90s that presented the crater explanation as a fairly new theory. It was back then, yeah. It was really in the 1980s that the impact hypothesis, that's what we call it, that really came to the fore. And evidence started being presented that started to convince some scientists. Nowadays, the more that we've studied it, the more it seems like that asteroid impact is what did it. So yeah, there's a pretty good consensus nowadays in 2023 that that it was the asteroid what done it, you know? Yeah. Let's see. Any huge storms out there yet? Not quite yet, Raptor. No huge storms yet, but we've got some small, annoying storms that have been happening, and yeah, those aren't always the most fun. Anyway, let's go walk over to the quarry. I'll show you that duckbill femur, and we'll see what the guys are up to, and then I'll think about wrapping things up. Yeah. But yeah. S.A. Fox Mulder says, are we sure it wasn't aliens? Is an asteroid an alien? Because then I guess it was. I don't know. How do you define aliens? And we've got no reason to think that there was any foul play involved. It's just a bad accident with an asteroid, you know? But we're pretty lucky as mammals, because like if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't be here today. Mammals were around during the age of dinosaurs, and they were always really small and insignificant. They never really, from my perspective, they never really did much of interest back then. They mostly lived in burrows and maybe came out at night. There were no horses or bears or foxes or whales during the age of dinosaurs. Every mammal basically looked like a little mouse thing, or a little squirrel thing, or a little rat thing, or a little vole thing. With a few kind of like badgery looking things too, but they were pretty rare. Anyway. Yeah. And what did they suspect caused the extinction before the meteor theory? Nobody really knew. Yeah. It was just kind of a big mystery. Some paleontologists proposed that it was various diseases that killed off the dinosaurs, or that the climate changed, or that like seaways drying up changed the climate, changed their habitat, they couldn't adapt. But from what we can tell today, it really seems like dinosaurs are doing really, really well right up until that moment of impact. Like, it does not seem like they're in decline really at all. And dinosaur diversity does seem to kind of yo-yo a bit throughout the age of dinosaurs. For about 150 million years, you know, dinosaurs do pretty well throughout that, but their numbers kind of go up and down a little bit, and they seem to have been maybe going up at the end of the age of dinosaurs. After like the mid-Cretaceous may have been pretty rough. I was talking with Nick Longrich about this the other day, and he has me pretty convinced that that's the case. Dinosaurs were doing really, really well right until that asteroid hit, and yeah. Lots of critters died that day. Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah. And oh yeah, Encephalon Wolf. Yeah, Gerda Keller. We were just talking about her the other day too. I mean, that's the thing, is that a lot of people thought that volcanic eruptions, like the Deccan Traps out there in India, that they may have caused the extinction, but it really doesn't seem like that anymore. Yeah. In fact, it might very well be that the like those big volcanic eruptions made the asteroid impact less severe than it otherwise would have been, in the sense that, you know, if an asteroid impact causes global cooling very, very suddenly, almost like an impact winter, like a nuclear winter, then those volcanoes raising Earth's temperature right beforehand may have actually made that impact winter less severe. So maybe that's the reason why mammals didn't go completely extinct, and birds too. We could owe our very existence to the fact that those volcanoes were going off for hundreds of thousands of years before the asteroid impacted. But I don't know. There are a couple papers that suggest that, but you know, we're still figuring those details out, you know? Yeah. And Bumble Daisy, thank you. Hey, I'm glad this has become one of your favorite streams. It's so good to have you here. Holy cow. Yeah. Good stuff. And Lordy Raid, hello Lordy and Raiders, how are you doing? What is up with you? Welcome to the desert of western Wyoming. We're out here digging dinosaurs. Here on Paleontologizing. We've got what looks like a new species of duckbill dinosaur. Well, not what looks like. Doesn't look like much of anything yet, but because of the age of the rocks that we're digging in, it's almost certainly going to be new. So we're very excited about that. Lordy, I heard you were making, what was it, black forest cake today on stream? How did that turn out? I hope it was great. I hope when I get back from this adventure sometime in August or September, maybe I'll get to try some of that if you want to make it again. Anyway, everybody, if you're not yet following Lordy, check her out. She does cooking and crafting streams. She's a member of my stream team, one of my favorite people. So go follow her too. Her streams are a lot more chill than mine, and kind of more intimate setting, you know? If you don't like a really raucous chat, check out Lordy's channel. It's always a good time. Yeah. But yeah, good stuff. And we've got readers from Fedorasaur too. Very awesome. Thank you, Fedorasaur. Welcome, welcome. It is great to have you here. What's shaking? Playing something called Paleo Pines. Oh, I think I heard about that on Twitter. It's almost like Animal Crossing or something, right? Yeah. The day the strength of the dinosaurs failed. There you go, Westrill. Good stuff. Good stuff. Anyway, welcome everybody to Paleontologizing. It is great to have you here. Yeah. Here, let's check out the quarry again, and then I'll think about wrapping things up, because I've got to make sure I'm pulling my own weight, and might have like only a little over an hour left to work at the site for today. So yeah, good stuff. Oh, and Kanara raided earlier with over 100 people. Well, thank you, Kanara. Can we get another shout out for Kanara too? Wow, Lordy and Fedorasaur and Kanara. That is wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, and Durandal wants to know, can you identify a fossil from weight if texture and visuals are not conclusive? Well, the thing is, if the texture and the visuals aren't conclusive, then no. You mean by weight, do you mean like density? The density can actually vary a lot based on how it's preserved, and how complete it is. The thing is, if it's already broken and busted up to the point where the texture and the shape are not diagnostic, the weight isn't going to help you out at all. No. Good question, though. Yeah. And we don't really have an effective way to like identify things based on chemistry yet either. It's mostly morphology, you know, the shape. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, it's great to have you here, everybody. Holy cow! Let's check out this quarry up here, digging up this duckbill. Oh, and we've got some more bits of bone. Fish, you know about these bones down here?
No, I don't.
Ooh. Yeah, this looks like maybe a chunk of a rib or maybe a transverse process from a vertebra. Maybe a neural spine. So I got some nice symmetry right there. But yeah, very nice. Exactly where we'd expect to find it coming down from up there. Yeah, nice. Wow. Finding dinosaur bones live on stream. Yeah. Beautiful. Very nice. Let's set that there. And I'm sure if we follow this down, we'd find lots more pieces. So it's cool to have, but we already know where it's coming out up there, so that is good. Good stuff. Yeah. Anything new up there?
Crazy.
Yeah.
A little bit of a plant.
Ooh, some plant bits
Yeah.
for our plant fans.
Right here you can see.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it was a little knot or something.
Yep. Very nice. Could be some roots or something like that.
And then this right here just popped out.
Ooh, almost looks toothy. Actually, I don't know. That might be like a weird mudstone thing.
Okay.
But it is shiny and pretty, so I mean, good eyes. Locating that. What's this right here?
Some Ichna stuff from the other day.
Ooh, more gar scale right here. Yeah, how shiny that is. Nice. Ichno stuff?
Yeah, from when we were first
Ooh,
excavating.
yeah, maybe some insect burrows or something like that. Very nice. All these things can be important clues for what this environment was like. Very cool. Which horizon did that come from?
Came from right up there.
Right up there?
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, so once again, it's not just about the dinosaurs. We want to know every critter that lived in this environment to give us a more complete picture of what this ecosystem was like. Yeah. Yeah, very cool. And then, of course, this big, beautiful bone is, man, I've been streaming for a while. Look at how long the shadows have gotten. Shoot, I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon, guys, and then I can help out. But big old thigh bone from a duckbill dinosaur here. So yeah, I'm not sure if this is the top or the bottom right here. If it's the top, then it looks like it's missing the femoral head where it fits into the hip. I'm guessing that's probably what's going on, because that looks more like the distal end, but there's all this crud still on top of it that needs to be cleaned before I can really identify it. But yeah, this is a big bone. This would be a large animal, like almost T-Rex size potentially. Tyrannosaurus, its femurs be a little bit bigger than this. But of course we're like 7 million years before T-Rex here in the almond formation. But from a big duckbill dinosaur, big plant eater with a big duck-like beak. And these guys seem to be pretty common in this environment. Yeah, cool stuff.
Just pull out a gar scale. I'm gonna show
Oh, nice. Yeah, check that out. Not as shiny as the other one. Oh, that surface is pretty shiny though. What's the, isn't it ganoine is the particular compound that gives them that sheen and everything?
Not sure about that. I'm not
Yeah.
an ichthyologist. But
But yeah, really neat. So these are basically like bony scales in this fish. It's almost like chainmail armor that they have. Really cool. Will protect them from predators, and these guys were predators themselves. Have you ever seen gar teeth and gar mouths? There's a reason alligator gar get called alligator gar, because their head almost looks like an alligator. Like, they've got a really crocodilian aspect to them. They've got all these really gnarly teeth that they use for catching other fishes and any other critter that's unfortunate to fall into the water there. Like, they'll eat baby ducks and stuff like that, and whatever they can get hold of, really. But they don't really attack people. I mean, they wouldn't be able to eat a person, so why bother? People are too big. Maybe a little baby. So don't let your little babies swim around in a Louisiana bayou where, you know, there's big gar. Yeah. Well, Oscar Jr., you've never heard of garfish until today? Well, garfish are still around today. That's the cool thing. They've been around since the Cretaceous. They were swimming around when dinosaurs were walking around, and they're still swimming around today. They survived that asteroid impact. And they look pretty similar today to how they did back then, at least superficially. sure if you talk to a gar expert, they'd be able to point out 1,000 differences between Cretaceous gar and modern gar. But to my eyes, they look very similar. So yeah. Yeah. And, yeah, good stuff. Anyway, I've been streaming for I don't know how long at this point, and I think it is probably about time to start wrapping things up. I'll see if I can stream again tomorrow, but no promises. This is a legitimate dinosaur dig. This is a scientific expedition, and streaming is not the priority. The priority is getting the fossils, collecting data, and conducting science. So yeah, but thank you for joining me during this little streaming interlude here. And yeah, if you've not yet followed, I recommend you do so, because I'm going to be having more dinosaur dig streams like this through August, working at various sites and everything. So don't miss them. Yeah, hope you had a good time today. And let's find somebody to raid here real quick. Let me open up the Twitch app. And let's see, go to watch. Who else is live right now? Let's see here. Let's go raid into Linus Tech. I've watched him a couple times. Does he allow raids? Might be subscriber only or something. Raiders hold hands. Thank you, Kanara. Thank you again for your raid. Raid. Shoot. Linus Tech. I mean, the objective here is to bring new people into the stream. Let's see. Started a raid to Linus Tech, and now I'll go to here. Go to my channel. Chat. There we go. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. I hope you had a ton of fun. I really enjoyed showing you around, and yeah, it's nice to be able to kind of demonstrate how science works in the field and to answer your questions and everything. It's such a privilege, so thank you for your attention and your financial support. That's the only reason I can be out here. And honestly, we wouldn't be out here like this if it were not for your fundraising support, so thank you very much for that, everybody. I am deeply grateful. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and raid into Linus Tech, and I'll see everybody later. Take care. Bye-bye.